Okay, so I want to tell you about this incredible 18-year journey of a guy who went from a completely soul-crushing factory job to building a multi-million-pound empire, all from a log cabin in his own backyard. It's an amazing story. And when I say empire, I'm not kidding. This is what Wayne Crowe currently brings in, over 150,000 pounds every single month. And get this, sometimes he says it's actually closer to 500,000. It's a staggering amount of money. But believe me, the story of how he got there is even better.
You know, he's the first one to say it. He's not living in some giant mansion. He's actually still in the same house where this whole thing started. His dream was never about all the flashy stuff. It was about designing a life he actually wanted to live.
And here's the most mind-blowing part of this whole thing, this entire journey. It started with just 25 pounds from his bedroom. So the big question is, how on earth did he pull that off? Well, that's exactly what we're about to break down.
So let's start with where he is right now. This is the endpoint, the dream that he built for himself, running this massive business from a simple log cabin at the end of his garden.
He actually calls it his bat cave, and it's the nerve center for his whole operation. From this one little office, he runs a multi-million-pound business, manages a team of over 30 people all over the world, and is finally free from the money worries that used to haunt him. But what's really important here is that he genuinely loves the journey, the day-to-day challenge of building it all.
But to really appreciate the dream, you have to understand the nightmare he managed to escape. So, let's rewind the clock a bit.
This slide really says it all, doesn't it? For 7 long years, he was just trapped in a factory, working these brutal rotating shifts. Mornings, afternoons, overnights. He had a boss he didn't respect and was constantly in his overdraft. Now, he's his own boss with total financial freedom. It's just a complete life transformation.
So how did he break out of that cycle? Well, it wasn't some big secret or a lucky break. It started with something so many of us have probably done. He sat down at his computer, opened up Google, and typed in how to make money online. That simple search was step one. His first really big breakthrough came from selling just a single product online. He says he will never forget the day he walked into the bank and withdrew 500 pounds in cash. I mean, for someone who was always in the red, just holding that money in his hand was this profound moment. It was the first real, tangible proof that a different life was actually possible. It was the moment he realized, wow, this stuff really works.
Okay, so this is where we get to a really crucial turning point. Because his early success, it quickly spiraled into something much, much bigger. And, surprisingly, something he didn't actually want. So first, he finds this new best-selling product from China. Then, and you really can't make this stuff up, he met his future business partner while he was driving a taxi just to make ends meet. After that, things just exploded. He started buying up other businesses, and before he really knew what was happening, he'd built this accidental empire with 70 employees. 70!
And that's when he hit a wall. He looked at this massive, complicated business he'd built and realized he'd created another prison for himself. This wasn't the dream of freedom. It was a super high-stress job, managing payroll, HR problems, and just endless complexity. He hadn't escaped the factory just to build a bigger, more stressful one.
So he made a pretty terrifying decision. He chose to intentionally take apart the very thing that was making him rich so he could build something that would actually make him happy.
And I mean, he literally stopped everything. He slammed the brakes on the entire operation to ask one simple but incredibly powerful question. It wasn't about revenue or profit or headcount. It was all about lifestyle. What kind of life do I actually want? And that single question changed everything. It's what led him to the log cabin he has today.
So what can we all learn from his wild 18-year ride? Well, he boils it all down to a few core principles that are less about business tactics and much more about your mindset. Here it is straight from the source. First, fix your mindset. He admits it's not a sexy topic, but it is the foundation for everything else. It's about truly believing you can do it. Second, you have to overcome your fears. He learned that real success is almost always waiting for you just on the other side of what terrifies you. And third, and this is the big one, just take action. Excuses are always going to be there. Action is the only thing that actually moves you forward. And you know, he's very open about his own struggles with this. One of his biggest hurdles early on was just getting on camera. He was absolutely terrified of it. He was an introvert who couldn't even imagine picking up the phone to talk to a stranger. Now, he's made thousands of videos, and it's generated millions for his business.
And that's why his philosophy for all those common excuses, it's too late, it's too hard, there's too much competition, is so direct. Just do it. His belief is really simple. If you want it badly enough, you will find a way, period.
So, when you trace it all the way back, Wayne's multi-million-pound business and his life of freedom didn't really start with £25. It started with a decision to act despite being afraid. And that leaves us with a pretty powerful question to ask ourselves. What's the one fear that if you finally overcame it, could change everything?